Welcome, gents. What does it truly mean to be someone who cannot be defined or contained by the usual rules of human behavior? The Sigma male stands as a rare figure, often misunderstood yet deeply fascinating. He is like the black swan of human behavior, unexpected and unshaped by the paths most people follow. While many move according to familiar patterns, his life is a reminder that not every story fits into the script written by society. A Sigma male does not measure his worth through the approval of others. His strength lies in his ability to live from within, guided by his own compass, rather than the directions handed to him. This makes him difficult to predict and nearly impossible to control. Systems, trends, and pressures that hold so many people in place have little effect on him because he does not see them as anchors of security. To him, they are cages. If you feel different, if you have ever questioned why you cannot bend yourself to fit into molds that everyone else accepts, then take courage. Being different is not a weakness. It is the very sign that you carry the rare spirit of independence that refuses to be captured. The world often fears what it cannot control, but history is shaped by those who dare to remain unshaken in their truth. The Sigma male is proof that true freedom does not come from being accepted. It comes from being unshakably yourself. Let's get started, gents. Number 1. He disrupts patterns people think are universal, leaving them scrambling to understand why the usual rules do not apply. He disrupts patterns people think are universal, leaving them scrambling to understand why the usual rules do not apply. That is the essence of a Sigma male. He does not play by the scripts handed down through culture, tradition, or group expectation. While most people are taught early to follow predictable routes, study hard, get a good job, climb the ladder, buy into the lifestyle everyone else is chasing, he questions the entire structure. This questioning is not rebellion for the sake of drama, it is clarity. He sees that what works for the majority does not always lead to freedom, and freedom is what he values most. Think of the way most people react when someone refuses to follow a tradition. There is usually confusion and even judgment. For example, a family gathering may pressure everyone to speak and act in a certain way. But the Sigma male does not perform for approval. Instead, he speaks in his own rhythm, sometimes saying less but leaving more impact. People struggle to grasp it because it does not fit the familiar social rhythm, yet it forces them to notice their own patterns. In the workplace, the same truth plays out. Rules of office politics suggest that survival comes from pleasing the right people and keeping up appearances. But the Sigma male thrives by relying on competence and quiet results. He is not blind to the politics, he simply refuses to let them dictate his path. This disrupts the invisible game many rely on, and it unsettles those who realize their tactics do not work on him. What makes him difficult to control is not stubbornness, but detachment. He is not attached to the rewards or punishments others fear. Promotions, praise, gossip, or criticism do not chain him. This independence is what throws people off balance because the usual methods of influence, flattery, pressure, manipulation become useless. In everyday life, you can see this when friends push each other into certain habits or lifestyles. The Sigma male may sit quietly, listen, and then go in a completely different direction without explaining himself. His actions say, "I am not here to repeat your script." That simple refusal to conform creates both admiration and unease. He is the reminder that the rules we take as universal are often just habits, and when one man breaks them with confidence, the illusion of control is exposed for everyone else to see. Number 2, he thrives in psychological ambiguity, operating in spaces most people find uncomfortable or unsafe. Most people crave certainty. They want things clearly defined, neatly packaged, and easy to read. But Sigma men are wired differently. They thrive in the gray areas of life, in situations where nothing is straightforward and the ground feels unstable. What others see as confusion or even danger, the Sigma male sees as opportunity. Think about it. Most people panic when the rules are unclear, when there is no guidebook or obvious leader to follow. But this is exactly where the Sigma male feels most alive. He is not bothered by uncertainty because he understands that power often hides in the shadows where others are too afraid to look. Take a workplace, for example. When colleagues are stressed about a sudden change in leadership or shifting company goals, the Sigma male doesn't scramble for answers. He studies the silence, observes the body language, and learns more from what people are not saying than from what they are. This ability to remain steady in psychological ambiguity makes him hard to predict. If you cannot tell what a Sigma man will do next, you cannot control him. He refuses to play the same game everyone else is playing because he has already seen that game for what it is. Instead, he chooses his own timing, his own moves, and often takes paths that no one even considered possible. Picture a group of friends who are all caught up in drama, gossip, and hidden agendas. Most people would get pulled into that chaos. But the Sigma male quietly reads every motive in the room, and instead of being dragged down, he uses the tension to understand people better. While others are busy fighting for dominance, he is already several steps ahead, moving in silence toward his own goals. What makes him stand out is that he does not need things to be clear in order to move forward. He accepts that life is messy, that people are unpredictable, and that control is often an illusion. While most people cling to certainty, the Sigma male has learned to breathe in the uncertainty and make it work in his favor. That is why he cannot be cornered. He thrives exactly where others collapse. Number 3. He is both transparent and unreadable, revealing enough to be seen but never enough to be fully known. There is something magnetic about a Sigma man's presence. People feel like they know him, yet at the same time he remains a mystery. He has mastered the balance between being open and untouchable. He reveals just enough for others to believe they understand him, but he always keeps the deepest parts of himself protected. It is this paradox that makes him both relatable and unreadable. Imagine being in a conversation with a Sigma man. He listens carefully, responds with clarity, and shares just enough about his own life to keep the exchange genuine. Yet when you walk away, you realize you know far less about him than you thought. He lets you see the surface, but the depths remain hidden. This is not about secrecy or dishonesty, it is about control. He chooses what parts of himself deserve exposure and what must remain untouched. This way of being is not only intriguing, it is also a form of quiet power. In everyday life, people often give away too much of themselves without realizing it. They reveal their fears, their insecurities, their weaknesses, and others can use that against them. The Sigma man, however, never puts all his cards on the table. He makes sure there is always a layer that cannot be reached, no matter how close someone thinks they are to him. Think of it like a well-designed house with large windows. You can see inside the living room, admire the furniture, even get a glimpse of the people moving around. But there are locked doors within that house, private spaces that are never shown to outsiders. That is the Sigma man. Open enough to be approachable, yet private enough to be untouchable. This balance works to his advantage in relationships, work, and even friendships. People often find themselves drawn in, wanting to figure him out, wanting to dig deeper. The more they try, the more they realize he cannot be fully mapped. His transparency is intentional. His unreadability is his shield. And this is what keeps him ahead in a world where everyone is oversharing and constantly broadcasting themselves. While others give away their entire story for attention, the Sigma man knows that mystery is not a weakness but a strength. He teaches us that you can let people see you without ever allowing them to own you. Number 4. He turns observation into a shield and a weapon, collecting silent data before he makes his move. For the Sigma man, observation is more than just watching. It is a silent strategy. While most people rush into situations with their emotions on display, he stands back and studies. He notices the way someone fidgets when they are lying, the hesitation in a voice when confidence is forced, or the quick glance of envy that flashes across a face. These small details, often overlooked by others, become his map. He uses them to understand not just what people say, but what they truly mean. Observation for him is both protection and advantage. It acts as a shield because it allows him to see threats long before they reach him. Imagine walking into a workplace where politics and power games are at play. While others are swept up in chatter and drama, the Sigma man is reading the room quietly. He spots the colleague who is always trying to undermine others with backhanded compliments. He notices the subtle alliances forming in the background. By collecting this silent data, he protects himself from being blindsided. But observation is not only a shield, it is also a weapon. Once he understands the patterns of people, he knows when to move and how to move. Think of a chess player who does not rush but waits for the right opening. The Sigma man plays life with that same patience. He might stay silent when others are loud, letting them reveal their strategies. Then, when the timing is perfect, he makes a single move that shifts the entire dynamic in his favor. In personal relationships, this skill is even more powerful. While many get caught up in surface-level words and promises, the Sigma man pays attention to actions. He knows that consistency speaks louder than charm. For instance, he may notice that a friend always avoids responsibility in small ways, like never showing up on time or always making excuses. That observation tells him more about the person than their polished words ever could. What makes this ability so captivating is that it is invisible. Most people do not realize they are being read. They underestimate him because he is quiet, not knowing that his silence is filled with calculations. The Sigma man proves that sometimes the strongest moves are made without noise. By turning observation into both shield and sword, he stays steps ahead, leaving others wondering how he always seems to know more than he should. Number 5, he is allergic to emotional dependency, making it impossible to trap him through neediness or fear of loss. Most people form bonds by leaning on others for comfort, approval, or security. They need constant reassurance that they are loved, appreciated, or valued. For the Sigma man, this kind of emotional dependency is foreign. He does not operate from fear of losing someone, nor does he feel compelled to cling to others for his sense of worth. He knows that when your value comes from another person, you hand over control of your life. That is why he protects his independence above all else. Imagine a relationship where one person constantly seeks attention or approval. They send messages to check if they are still liked, they overreact when plans change, and they make decisions out of fear of abandonment. Most people respond to these behaviors emotionally, either by trying to soothe or by becoming frustrated. The Sigma man, however, observes calmly. He does not feel pressure to rescue someone's emotions because his own stability is self-contained. His actions are deliberate, not reactive. This immunity to emotional dependency extends beyond romantic relationships. In friendships or work, he is not swayed by manipulation or guilt. A colleague might try to pressure him by implying that loyalty or respect is conditional, or a friend might attempt to create obligation through emotional appeals. He sees these tactics clearly and chooses his responses carefully. He will offer support if it aligns with his values, but he will never bend to fear or neediness. Being free from emotional dependency does not mean he lacks empathy. On the contrary, he can connect deeply because his interactions are authentic, not driven by insecurity. He gives willingly, but never out of compulsion. People who rely on him cannot trap him with emotional hooks because he has no hooks of his own. For the Sigma man, this is a source of power and peace. By refusing to tie his sense of self to someone else's approval or affection, he remains untouchable. He cannot be cornered by neediness, guilt, or fear of loss. While others struggle to maintain control through emotion, he moves with clarity, calm, and independence. Emotional freedom becomes his natural state, making him a force that cannot be manipulated or contained. Number 6, he reads contradictions in people like an open book and adjusts her boundaries accordingly. Most people take words at face value. They hear what someone says and trust that it matches what they actually mean. The Sigma man does not. He reads the contradictions hidden in behavior, tone, and action. He notices when someone's words promise one thing, but their behavior delivers another. These inconsistencies are not ignored. They become signals that help him set boundaries and protect his energy. Imagine a co-worker who constantly claims to be a team player, but always takes credit for others' work. Most people might notice it, feel frustrated, but continue trusting that the person will eventually change. The Sigma man does not wait for that. He recognizes the pattern immediately and adjusts his approach. He limits how much responsibility he shares, he keeps careful records, and he ensures that his work remains protected. The contradiction tells him exactly how far to allow someone into his professional space. This skill is not only useful in the workplace. In friendships, he observes whether people act consistently with their words. Someone might talk about loyalty but disappear the moment things get inconvenient. The Sigma man notes it, steps back when needed, and recalibrates how much trust and time he invests. His boundaries are always evolving based on the reality he sees, not the story someone tells. In personal relationships, this ability becomes even more powerful. He notices when promises are empty, when actions contradict intentions, and when patterns repeat. By doing so, he prevents himself from being trapped by manipulation or unrealistic expectations. The Sigma man knows that words are cheap and that actions reveal true character. What sets him apart is his precision. He does not react impulsively or emotionally. He quietly observes, processes, and then acts with intention. People often underestimate him because he is calm and composed, but his awareness gives him the upper hand. He has already mapped the behavior, predicted the potential consequences, and decided how to protect himself before others even realize a boundary is being tested. By reading contradictions like an open book, the Sigma man turns insight into power. He protects his time, his energy, and his peace while still interacting with the world on his own terms. Others may struggle with trust, confusion, or betrayal, but he moves through life guided by clarity, understanding, and carefully drawn boundaries that make him untouchable. Number 7. He does not measure his worth by anyone's approval, cutting off another common chain of control. Many people spend their lives seeking approval. They measure their success by praise, likes, compliments, or recognition. If someone fails to acknowledge their effort, they feel small, and if someone criticizes them, they feel defeated. That is a heavy chain to carry because it gives others power over your emotions and your sense of self. The Sigma man understands this, and he refuses to live that way. His sense of worth is internal. It is not dependent on anyone else's opinion. Imagine a workplace where praise is handed out selectively, and many people bend over backward to get noticed. Most will adjust their behavior, change their approach, or even compromise their values to receive approval. The Sigma man does not play that game. He focuses on results, clarity, and his own standards. He does what needs to be done because it aligns with his principles, not because someone might applaud him. When others react with admiration or jealousy, it is irrelevant to him. His actions are never driven by the desire to be liked. In personal relationships, this independence from approval makes him hard to manipulate. People often try to influence others through guilt, flattery, or praise. They assume that a compliment will sway him or that criticism will force him to comply. But the Sigma man does not respond to external pressure. His choices are guided by his own judgment and his understanding of what is right for him. This does not make him cold or detached. He is capable of empathy, loyalty, and genuine connection. But these qualities are given freely, not earned through obligation or expectation. He sets the terms of engagement. He does not let the desire to be liked dictate how he behaves. By refusing to measure his worth through the eyes of others, the Sigma man cuts off one of the most common tools of control. No praise can inflate him into arrogance, and no criticism can shrink him into submission. His freedom is rooted in self-definition. He knows that the moment you allow others to set your value, you surrender your power. For the Sigma man, power is not about dominance over others. It begins within, and that is why he remains untouchable. Number 8, he anticipates power plays and sidesteps them before they fully form. Most people only realize they are being manipulated once it is too late. They notice the power play after it has already trapped them, leaving them frustrated, confused, or angry. The Sigma man does not operate that way. He anticipates the moves of others before they even take shape. And because of this, he sidesteps traps before anyone has the chance to pull them tight. Imagine a workplace where colleagues are always jockeying for influence, subtly undermining one another to get ahead. Most people get caught in the tension because they react emotionally or get drawn into drama. The Sigma man observes carefully. He notices patterns in behavior, tone, and timing. He sees the hints of manipulation in small actions, like a colleague praising him in front of others while quietly shifting blame for mistakes. Instead of reacting immediately, he positions himself so that the move cannot touch him. By the time others realize what they were attempting, their plan has already failed. In personal relationships, this awareness is just as effective. Someone might try to create guilt or obligation through subtle comments or by overplaying vulnerability. The Sigma man recognizes the strategy instantly. He does not overreact, but he does not fall into the trap either. He adjusts his boundaries, his engagement, and sometimes his presence, ensuring that no one can manipulate him through fear or neediness. What makes this ability remarkable is that it is almost invisible. Most people underestimate him because he is calm and composed. They do not see the mental calculations happening beneath the surface. They think he is unaware or passive, when in reality, he is already 3 steps ahead, predicting outcomes and protecting his position. This skill gives him a unique kind of freedom. He moves through life without being dragged into games he did not choose to play. Others may scramble to gain advantage, to dominate or to manipulate, but he operates outside their control. By anticipating power plays and sidestepping them before they fully form, the Sigma Man turns potential threats into neutral territory. He demonstrates that true power is not about reacting to others, but about moving so strategically that they cannot affect your path. In a world full of hidden agendas, this ability keeps him untouchable. Number 9. He does not compete where the competition is loudest, choosing arenas where he alone sets the terms. Most people believe success comes from being the loudest, the most visible, or the first to claim attention. They compete where the noise is greatest, where the rules are obvious, and where everyone else is fighting for the same scraps. The Sigma Man does not play that way. He understands that true advantage comes from choosing his arena carefully, from operating in spaces where he sets the terms rather than following someone else's rules. Think about a workplace where everyone is rushing to impress the boss, constantly raising their voices in meetings or fighting to be noticed. Many believe this is the only way to get ahead. The Sigma Man watches quietly. He studies the flow of influence, identifies gaps others are missing, and finds opportunities that no one else sees. While the loudest competitors are exhausting themselves, he works on projects that matter in ways that others cannot easily replicate or challenge. By the time others notice, he is already ahead, not because he fought harder, but because he chose the arena where his strength counts the most. In personal life, this approach is just as effective. Consider social dynamics where people try to dominate conversations, impress peers, or control narratives. Most jump in to argue, to be seen, or to compete. The Sigma Man does not. He engages when it matters, quietly excelling in areas that truly reflect his values and skills. The energy he invests is strategic, and it often goes unnoticed until it has a lasting impact. This is not about avoidance or laziness. It is about intelligence and self-control. By refusing to compete where the competition is loudest, he avoids unnecessary conflict and wasted energy. He does not need validation from those shouting the loudest because he defines his own benchmarks. His victories are measured by his own terms, not by the applause or recognition of the crowd. This mindset allows him to operate with freedom and precision. While others exhaust themselves chasing attention, he moves confidently in spaces he controls, creating influence without noise. By setting the terms of his arena, the Sigma Man ensures that every effort counts, every move matters, and every success is both authentic and untouchable. In a world obsessed with visibility, he thrives in deliberate impact. Number 10. He accepts change as his natural state, making it impossible to corner him in a fixed identity. Most people cling to who they think they are. They define themselves by jobs, relationships, titles, or routines, believing that stability equals safety. The problem is, life rarely stays stable. The Sigma Man understands this instinctively. He accepts change as natural and inevitable. He does not resist it, he moves with it. And because of this, he cannot be trapped in a fixed identity. Imagine someone who has worked in the same position for years. When the company shifts strategy or leadership changes, they panic. Their identity is tied to a role that no longer exists, and suddenly they feel lost. The Sigma Man reacts differently. He has learned that nothing defines him except his own choices, skills, and values. A job change, a breakup, or a move to a new city does not shake him. He adapts, grows, and discovers opportunities in the new circumstances. Change is not a threat, it is a tool he can use. In relationships, this mindset is equally powerful. People often try to box others into roles: the supportive partner, the responsible friend, the consistent co-worker. Many accept these definitions without question, adjusting their behavior to fit expectations. The Sigma Man refuses to be boxed in. He allows himself to evolve naturally, showing different sides of himself as situations and people change. Those who expect him to stay the same quickly learn that he cannot be cornered or controlled. This adaptability is not about being indecisive or inconsistent. It is about freedom. He knows that clinging to a fixed identity makes him predictable, and predictability invites manipulation. By embracing change, he remains fluid and resilient. He can pivot, innovate, and reinvent himself without fear. Even in everyday life, this ability gives him an advantage. While others get stuck in routines or roles that no longer serve them, he thrives in transition. Moving to a new city, switching careers, or navigating unexpected personal challenges does not overwhelm him. He moves deliberately, learning from every experience and incorporating it into his evolving self. For the Sigma man, change is not a disruption, it is a state of being. He cannot be cornered because he refuses to remain fixed. His identity is a river, always flowing, always moving, impossible to dam. This is why he remains untouchable in a world that tries to define, limit, and confine. Number 11. He understands that true control starts with the self, and he guards his inner world as if it were a fortress. Most people spend their lives trying to control everything around them, other people, outcomes, circumstances, without realizing that the real control starts within. The Sigma man knows this. He understands that no amount of external power can substitute for mastery of his own mind, emotions, and choices. That is why he guards his inner world with extreme care, treating it like a fortress that cannot be breached by gossip, pressure, or manipulation. Imagine someone who constantly reacts to the chaos around them. A friend insults them, and they fire back without thinking. A colleague challenges them, and they respond with emotion rather than strategy. That is the opposite of the Sigma man. He observes first, considers second, and only then acts. He does not give away his peace for anyone or anything. His reactions are deliberate, and his emotions are contained, giving him clarity in situations where others are blinded by impulse. In relationships, this approach is even more important. Many people allow themselves to be shaped by the expectations, moods, or demands of others. The Sigma man does not. He can be empathetic, loyal, and supportive, but he never compromises his internal balance to satisfy someone else. He sets the rules for his emotional engagement and protects his boundaries. This makes him extremely difficult to manipulate or pressure. Think of it like a well-guarded castle. Outsiders may see the walls, the gates, and the grounds, but what is inside remains untouched unless he decides otherwise. He chooses carefully who is allowed in, how close they can get, and how much influence they can have. This control over his inner life allows him to respond to challenges strategically rather than reactively. Even in daily life, this ability gives him an edge. When a project goes wrong, he does not panic. When conflict arises, he does not lash out. He approaches every situation with calm precision because his power comes from within. He knows that no external chaos can touch him unless he lets it. True control begins and ends with the self. By mastering his thoughts, guarding his emotions, and setting his boundaries with care, the Sigma man becomes untouchable. He demonstrates that the most formidable power in life is not about dominating others, but about ruling one's own inner world. In a world where most are easily swayed, this is his ultimate advantage. Number 12. He creates leverage by knowing the exact moment to be present and the exact moment to disappear. The Sigma man understands timing in a way most people never do. He knows that presence alone is not power, nor is absence weakness. True influence comes from knowing exactly when to engage and exactly when to step back. By mastering this, he creates leverage that others cannot anticipate or counter. Consider a situation at work. A meeting is tense with people pushing their agendas and vying for recognition. Most would feel the need to speak constantly, to assert themselves, or to defend every point. The Sigma man does the opposite. He observes, listens, and contributes only when it will have maximum impact. His words carry weight because he has chosen the perfect moment to speak. At the same time, he knows when to remain silent or step aside, allowing others to reveal themselves or overcommit. By being selective about presence, he shifts the balance of influence subtly but decisively. This principle applies in personal relationships as well. Some people overextend themselves, offering attention, advice, or support at every opportunity, leaving themselves vulnerable to being taken for granted. The Sigma man is deliberate. He invests where it matters, when it matters. He does not disappear out of avoidance, but to maintain his own balance and create perspective. His absence becomes a tool, a way to remind others that his presence is valuable, not automatic. Even in everyday life, this skill shows remarkable results. At social events, he does not force himself into every conversation or try to dominate attention. Instead, he engages where his contribution matters most. He leaves before he becomes predictable, ensuring that people remember him not for the noise he made, but for the impact he left. The brilliance of this approach is that it is almost invisible. Others may not even notice the calculation behind his choices, but they feel the effects. Decisions are influenced, situations are navigated, and relationships are managed without the usual struggle for control. For the Sigma man, presence and absence are tools of strategy, not reactions to circumstance. By knowing when to step in and when to step back, he creates leverage that cannot be measured by effort alone. He demonstrates that influence is not about doing more or being louder, it is about doing what is necessary at precisely the right moment. Mastering timing in this way makes him untouchable and unpredictable, a force others cannot control. In final words, have you ever noticed people who seem untouchable, who move through life on their own terms while others scramble to keep up? That is the essence of the Sigma male. He cannot be controlled because he starts with himself. He understands his value, protects his mind, and navigates life with precision and calm. He does not bend to pressure, chase approval, or get drawn into games that drain others. In a world full of rules, expectations, and hidden agendas, the Sigma male thrives by defining his own path. He observes carefully, acts deliberately, and adapts to change without losing his core. His independence is not arrogance, it is clarity. His power is quiet, not loud, and it often goes unnoticed until it matters most. The lesson he offers is simple but profound. True strength does not come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself, knowing your limits, and making decisions that honor your principles. By protecting your inner world, setting boundaries, and acting with intention, you gain influence that cannot be taken away. If you have ever felt manipulated, pressured, or constrained by what others expect of you, take inspiration from the Sigma male. You too can live on your own terms, create impact quietly, and remain untouchable in a world that constantly tries to define you. Freedom starts with mastery of the self, and from there, everything else falls into place. The Sigma male shows that independence, clarity, and quiet strength are not just traits, but a way to live a life that cannot be controlled. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.